Yes, it's really that bad. Let me explain. Welcome back, and once again, thank you for trusting me with your full spoiler movie reviews. That thing I do where I watch movies early and I tell you all about them. As always, I am unpaid and unsponsored. And full spoilers, all the spoilers. I'm going to tell you all the spoilers in this whole movie, and that's what you're going to hear. So if you don't want those, go ahead and scroll. I won't be offended. Although you should get all the spoilers for this one, honestly, just save your fucking money. But spoilers. Okay, here we go. So this is The Strangers, Chapter 1. If you don't know anything about the Strangers franchise or whatever, there are two predecessor movies called The Strangers and then The Strangers Prey at Night, where essentially these people are just showing up to random people's houses and killing them. And terrifying them / torturing. Now, I'm gonna let y'all in on my own personal history with the movie The Strangers. I have not finished the first one. Many years ago, when I did try to watch the first one, I got the phone call that my granddad passed away. I was already scared shitless. We were like 20 minutes in, and then that just kind of destroyed everything, and I've never been able to personally go back and watch. And part of it being is I have this little like voice in my head that says if I try again, something bad will happen. But that it's part of my OCD. It happens. And because I never finished the first Strangers, I never watched Prey at Night. So do with that what you will. However, what I saw of The Strangers up until that point scared me shitless. And yes, eventually I do plan on going back and watching it. I just haven't got up the gumption to do it. But now let's get into the actual story. So this lady and her boyfriend are traveling cross country from New York to Portland. And they pull off the highway to get something to eat in this 400-person town in the middle of Oregon. We can stop here at complaint number 1. 2 minutes in, maybe 2 minutes in, she says, oh, our funds just came through on Ally. And it shows a picture of some kind of app. It was like Ally Snapshot or some shit. Now the thing being is that there's always product placement in movies, and like even sometimes at the beginning, but it was so fucking random. What are the funds for? What are the funds coming from? Were we detriment on these funds hitting before they could stop and get food? Just, oh, our funds came through on Ally. And showing me a picture of the fucking app. I don't know why, but it feels insulting. Like, you want to put a Dr. Pepper in the fucking background? Sure, cool. But it was like a fucking TikTok ad. You know, when you're sitting there, you're watching a video for 10 seconds, all of a sudden, surprise, it's a fucking ad. I don't know why I took this one so personally, but once I was there, I was over it. But moving on. So the town of 400 in the middle of Oregon is basically Deliverance, where they don't like vegetarians or New Yorkers. So they eat their lunch and leave, and when they get back in their car, the car decides not to start. There's something wrong with the alternator or some shit, but they know for a fact it was the mechanic next door because the mechanic was fucking staring at them while they went into the garage or the cafe to eat. And he's like, well, I can't get the part until tomorrow in the next town over. But I'm kind of wondering, these people are incredibly wealthy, or at least seem incredibly wealthy. I'm wondering why they don't have roadside assistance if they don't trust this mechanic, but whatever. And they're like, well, the hotel's full, but there's some guy around here that has one of them fancy internet houses for rent. And then, like, the 123-year-old waitress is like, he has an Airbnb, and you can stay there. Even though we haven't checked with the guy who owns it to see if somebody was already staying in it, we just assumed. And I really do mean assume because the server offered to drop them off there. But I guess they got it worked out because they got in there and there was nobody in there. So they get to the house, and presumably they're only staying one night, but they're really upset that the fridge is broken. So she calls the owner of the Airbnb or whatever, and she's like, will you come fix it? Even though it's like the middle of the night, and they're only staying one night. But God forbid the beer get warm. And then they're starting to get raunchy on the kitchen counter when somebody is like banging like hell on the front door, right? And so he opens it the full fucking way, and it's a girl on the porch. Except we don't know it's a girl, because it's completely black. Now here's what gets me about this one. All the lights inside the cabin were on. And then there was a street light outside. I mean, it wasn't a great street light, but it was still a street light. But you couldn't see her at all, not even like the light coming from inside the cabin. It was like she was wearing like a completely black morph suit just in the middle of nothing, and it was weird. But she was looking for somebody named Tamara, who we never find out what that's about. But anyways, they don't think anything of it, and then they get on with the wienering, which we don't see. And then they're laying on the couch and something happens and it like starts to trigger his asthma again, which is the second time in this movie, which I'm assuming means he has very poorly controlled asthma. Please see your pulmonologist, sir. But anyway, she's like, I think I left it in the car. And he's like, don't worry, I found a motorcycle. I'm going to hop on it, go down to the garage and get it out of the car, even though he's having an asthma attack. No, sir, you should probably call an ambulance. But she's like, well, I'm hungry anyway. Ma'am, albuterol before french fries. Thank you. But whatever, he hops on the motorcycle and he goes away. And then she's on FaceTime with her friend, right? And there's that banging on the door again. That's like banging like all hell. And she's like, hold on, let me let you go. And so she gets off of FaceTime, puts her phone on the table, and goes to see who it is again. If you're in the middle of the woods by yourself, why did you get off FaceTime? I used to make FaceTime calls just to walk from my car to my apartment. And there's somebody banging on a door in the middle of the night in the middle of the woods. And you let them go? Bitch. Well, it's the little girl again. She keeps asking for Tamara, and then she runs away. Then she can hear someone singing Rockabye Baby out the kitchen window, so she goes and looks through there. And she's freaked out, so she tries calling her boyfriend like one time, and then that's it. Instead of getting something to defend herself with, she sparks a doobie. Ma'am, Tom Petty is looking down on you from heaven and saying, ma'am, now is not the time. And then there's that scene in the shower where he's like looking at her, which you see in the previews. And like by this point, there's people in the house, but they didn't do like a very good job at revealing it. I guess like if you've seen The First Strangers, you know what's going to happen, so it kind of takes the pressure off of it. But like they didn't do it justice. You know how in the first one, like she's just sitting there and then all of a sudden there's a man standing in the doorway and you weren't fucking expecting it? Yeah, they didn't really do that. And then the boyfriend comes back and all hell breaks loose, and you know, they're going through the door with like an axe and shit, and it's doing all that stuff. Literally the only scene I'm willing to give this movie credit for is that when he started trying to break through the door with an axe, they ran into the bedroom, put something in front of the door, and they just kind of sat there terrified, which I get because what else are you going to fucking do at the time? Nobody grabbed their cell phones. Nobody grabbed any kind of weaponry. My only qualm with that one particular scene is maybe don't be beside the window. But the rest is like them running around, and then all of a sudden she puts her hand down and a nail goes through it. I don't know how. I don't know how much pressure she was putting on her hand that she just whoop right through a nail. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense how they tried to escape in the Cherokee, and the Cherokee got T-boned, and then like in the final scene, like there's really nothing wrong looking with the Cherokee. Or when she's laying in a ditch and like 30 seconds after the killer lady leaves, she can like make a whole 911 call. But my favorite stupid moment comes when the boyfriend gets out of the Cherokee because the guy in the mask is gone. Because the guy in the mask got in the truck and T-boned the Cherokee against a tree, right? The Ford was perfect working. The keys were still in the Ford. The Ford had to have been unlocked because otherwise the guy in the mask couldn't get back in the Ford. Why didn't he get in the truck? It was a whole ass working truck. And I know it was working because they got in the truck and ran off at the end. And so he finds one of the masked ladies in the woods, and he won't stop fucking talking. He's got her at gunpoint. He won't stop fucking talking, and then he gets bashed in the head and, you know, taken. And she gets taken running through the woods. They're tied up to chairs in the middle of the living room, and they're each stabbed like a couple of times. Okay, fine, they're gonna bleed out, but then they kick the chairs over. Why'd you kick the chairs over? Why was this your big climactic moment? Let me stab you, and then I'm just gonna kick the chair over. And then they hear the cops coming, so they get in the truck and leave. But she ends up living, and she's in the hospital, and then there's a sign that says to be continued. And for the love of God, I hope not. If what's happening is what they are alluding to, we're doomed. And what I mean is, there's a couple of times in this movie that reference some kind of church. There's like two little Mormon boys, and they don't start singing. This is not the Book of Mormon. Then the lady who runs the cheeseburger stand gave them a church pamphlet. If this turns into a cult, I'm gonna be super pissed off. Candy, why would you see the next one if you didn't like this one? I gotta see where it goes from here. Which begs the question, why the fuck is it called Chapter 1 if this is not the beginning? We've got smartphones, we've got whatever the fuck Ally is, we've got a press start car, we've got FaceTime. There's no way this is like the prequel to the actual Strangers movies. It also occurs to me I don't know what the couples' names are. He just kept calling her babe. You know those like TikTok influencer couples where it's always calling her babe? And they're just like, oh, I love him so much. Our life is perfect. That's what they're giving me. Now, did I like it? Do I have to say it? No. And maybe I shouldn't be harder on this movie than I did the others, but the Ally thing got me. I don't remember what I gave Jeepers Creepers Reborn or Terror, but this gets a 3 out of 10. Okay, bye. Come on, baby, to my window. I'll be home soon.